Painting number 189, Demons and Pigs. Hello happy believers. Today we will reflect on how, under Jesus' authority, the evil spirits came out of the man and entered the pigs. We will read Mark's version in Mark chapter 5 verses 1 to 20. Jesus and his disciples crossed Lake Galilee and came to shore near the town of Gerasa. When he was getting out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit quickly ran to him from the graveyard where he had been living. No one was able to tie the man up anymore, not even with a chain. He had often been put in chains and leg irons, but he broke the chains and smashed the leg irons. No one could control him. Night and day he was in the graveyard or on the hills, yelling and cutting himself with stones. When the man saw Jesus in the distance, he ran up to him and knelt down. He shouted, "Jesus, Son of God in heaven, what do you want with me? Promise me in God's name that you won't torture me." The man said this because Jesus had already told the evil spirit to come out of him. Jesus asked, "What is your name?" The man answered, "My name is Lots, because I have lots of evil spirits." He then begged Jesus not to send them away. Over on the hillside, a large herd of pigs was feeding, so the evil spirits begged Jesus, "Send us into those pigs. Let us go into them." Jesus let them go, and they went out of the man and into the pigs. The whole herd of about 2,000 pigs rushed down the steep bank into the lake and drowned. The men taking care of the pigs ran to the town and the farms to spread the news. Then the people came out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had once been full of demons. He was sitting there with his clothes on and in his right mind, and they were terrified. Everyone who had seen what had happened told about the man and the pigs. Then the people started begging Jesus to leave their part of the country. When Jesus was getting into the boat, the man begged to go with him, but Jesus would not let him. Instead, he said, "Go home to your family and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how good he has been to you." The man went away into the region near the 10 cities known as Decapolis and began telling everyone how much Jesus had done for him. Everyone who heard what had happened was amazed. Reflection. The man lived a lonely and isolated life in a graveyard. People tried to control him, in desperation, trying to tie him up as he needed protection from himself, as he was out of control and harming himself as well. He was physically extremely strong, and everyone was petrified of him as he yelled out. The man with the evil spirit instantly recognized Jesus, even from a distance. He knew who he was and said, "Jesus, Son of God in heaven." It is very interesting to note that at the time of Jesus, demons, evil spirits, always recognized Jesus for who he truly was before anyone else. The same is true today of the crucifix, the Eucharist, and the Church. Evil spirits recognize the power of God instantly. What is that telling us? In Luke chapter 8, verse 30, when Jesus asked, "What is your name?" he replied, "Legion," because many demons had gone into him, referring to a vast multitude of demons and equally an army of 4,500 or more. Evil spirits need a host to live in and are tormented when pushed out into the abyss, just left roaming around, as demonstrated in Matthew chapter 12, verses 43 to 45. When an unclean spirit has gone out of a person, it passes through waterless places seeking rest, but finds none. Then it says, "I will return to my house from which I came." And when it comes, it finds the house empty, swept, and put in order. Then it goes and brings with it 7 other spirits, more evil than itself, and they enter and dwell there. And the last state of that person is worse than the first. So also will it be with this evil generation. That is why it says in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8, "Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour." So the evil spirits begged Jesus, "Send us into those pigs. Let us go into them." Jesus let them go, and they went out of the man and into the pigs. At that time, pigs were known to be unclean. This reading is not to discourage, but to encourage us, as we can see the power of Jesus at work. Jesus' authority is supreme over absolutely everything, so we have nothing to fear while we stay close to Jesus. Then the people who heard the news came out to see what had happened. The demon was sitting there with his clothes on and in his right mind, and they were terrified, wondering how did this come about. They were terrified, and when they saw the reality of what happened, they were awestruck and had never seen anything like this before. They feared Jesus' unknown power. Jesus commanded extraordinary things to happen, and they happened. Then the people started begging Jesus to leave their part of the country. There are many reasons why they asked Jesus to leave. One may be they feared what Jesus would do next. Much like us, they feared change, especially change they did not understand and had no control over. Also, there were financial consequences, as over 2,000 pigs drowned, and people's livelihoods and jobs were affected. Some people were angry and feared unrest in the area, as there would have been a lot of different reactions. God's goodness is not welcomed by everybody or easily understood. When Jesus was getting into the boat, the men begged to go with him, but Jesus would not let him. Instead, he said, "Go home to your family and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how good he has been to you." Everyone who heard what had happened was amazed. James chapter 4, verse 7. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Please like, subscribe and share so we can all live our wonderful Catholic faith together in all its richness. Next painting, very, very soon. Watch this space. Until then, remember, stay close to Jesus.